what I'm about to do now is just explain some of the important muscle areas and things that contribute to a poorly fitting saddle and affects the horse in their movement. First of all, let's look at the shoulder blade of the horse, or the scapula. Approximately like this. Now, at the end of the scapula, there's also cartilage, which is soft bone, right here. In and around this shoulder blade here, there's also a muscle called the trapezius muscle. Now, it's one of many muscles that's attached to the horse's shoulder blade. It's one of the most important muscles that helps elevate the horse's shoulder up and out like this when the horse is striding, regardless of whether it's equestrian, racing, endurance, etc. In the case where the horse is striding, this shoulder blade moves back around 3 inches, or 10 centimetres. But let's find the trapezius muscle. Starts here, attached here, and you'll find a line, feel a line of the horse's trapezius muscle right about here. So there we go. This big triangular section here is where we don't want pressure on the horse. Now, if I can show you when the horse's leg lifts up like this, we're going to start with the shoulder blade here. Take your horse, simply take your horse's leg, come in, lift it up like this, and now it's going from here back to here. When I put the leg down, we can see how much the horse's shoulder has moved back just by lifting the horse's leg. And this also occurs in horses when they're jumping. So now if we take a look at the trapezius muscle, if we pinch the trapezius muscle, the horse can quite easily get a numbing sensation. It's just like in nature when, for instance, an example, if a stallion mounts a mare and the mare doesn't want to play the game the stallion wants to play, the stallion will bite the mare in the trapezius muscle here or here. And as you can see already just by my fingers, the tension on these muscles, the horse is moving. But when a stallion mounts the mare will stand there and she cannot get away. And this is the same muscle that's causing saddles pinching around here. But then we've also got to remember that the shoulder is moving back from here to here. So if there's already pinching down the trapezius muscle, poor fella, it gets tighter and tighter because your shoulder is actually this big in shape. So when it moves back to something that's narrower, it gets tighter. So this tightness affects horses, for instance, when they're jumping out of the barriers. And you'll often see younger horses, sometimes they'll jump out of the barriers and start pig rooting. Well, the distance they've lost in that short time of pig rooting coming out of the barriers and bucking, they could have gained that at the winning post. Now, if you look at some of the race trees, this is a full tree, one of many trees around the world. You can see right here, this tiny little tree point made of steel, has no flexibility whatsoever, and a small amount of packing under the saddles. You can see how this tree point here is pinching the trapezius muscle, and remembering that the shoulder has to come back and squeeze through here. So there's quite a bit of pressure once we girth up, once the rider puts the weight in their stirrup bars, and then we put a surcingle over the top and do it up as well. So all this pressure is pushing down like this, and I'm not going to demonstrate it now, but if I was to lift the horse's leg and these tree points dig into the horse's shoulders, we'd get quite a severe reaction from this horse. Now that's just one type of tree called a full tree. Here's another tree called a half tree, which is in many race saddles. You can see it also has tree points like this here, angling forward. But the worst thing about this is, because it's a half tree, when the pressure from the stirrup bars, from the rider, surcingle, girth points, the tree actually pushes down here as well. And we're putting pressure on 2 points of the trapezius muscle, particularly here. It's like a fork. You know, now, if I was to get a G-clamp and pinch it here, we'd get too much pressure. The horse definitely wouldn't like it. And then you've also got to imagine when a horse is racing, quite often the jockey has the horse in a good hold. We're pulling that tree into the horse's shoulder, and this shoulder is moving back and forth, and as it's going back, it's lifting the tree up, down, like this. So we're getting constant pressure on the trapezius muscle. Now if you take a StrideFree tree, you see we don't have any tree points at all. And we place that on the horse's back, there's no pressure at all on any trapezius muscle. So we're eliminating any pressure. The shoulder can move more freely through here because there aren't any tree points. And the load bearing surface is much broader. So if I go back to these trees here, let's see the comparison. This one here, put that on top. You can see the comparison. No tree points, no pressure points anywhere. This is curved away. Let's have a look at this one. The half tree. Well, mate, you can see the half tree here. If I place it at the same point, we've got this whopping big tree point sticking out into the horse. We're eliminating that by taking away the tree point altogether and rounding it off. So it's much more comfortable for the horse. And because it's a full tree, we've got load bearing surface from here all the way through to here. There's no pressure points like in a half tree. Some of these trees, this is a timber one, has a bit of flexibility in it. There's synthetic ones, plastics, fiberglass, and some are even made of aluminium. So it's like a real weapon to me on a horse's back. But that's how I'd like to explain the trees and the difference between different types. So always be aware of what you're putting on your horse and think about what's inside your saddle.